Good
morning, everyone. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent and Merciful, I hope everyone is in excellent health and spirits and enjoying your summer break. I really want to personally thank each of you all for availing yourself this morning to participate in our weekly chair seminar. Before we get into the meat and grease of our seminar this morning, I wanted to go over first the format and outline of this pilot seminar program. It's our first one, so please be patient with us. We're still working out the kinks. In your inbox, you'll have a week-by-week description of what the seminar will entail. The purpose of the seminar is four things. The first point is to establish the political and historical framework upon which you stand. The second point is to teach you practical leadership skills, such as grassroots organizing, advocacy, activism, and proper approach to leadership. The third goal is to establish clear historical and current understanding of the mission of BSU, and then being able to develop a vision for your BSU based on that. And lastly, we want to teach you all management skills, leadership, and professionalism. Every week, we will upload the seminar materials into a Google folder, which you are all shared on. So that's all for our housekeeping notes. Now to our seminar. This week, our seminar's focus is the President's Club. Our objective for this seminar is to set the foundation and mental orientation of the phenomenal work that we will collectively achieve over the next 8 to 10 months. As organizers, as builders, we recognize that the most important task in building a building is always to lay the proper foundation. Yes, a roof is important. Yes, beautiful interior design is important. Yes, electricity and running water are both important aspects in constructing a building. But supreme in importance is always laying the proper foundation. For any building that sits on the proper foundation or does not sit on the proper foundation, regardless of its magnificence, regardless of how beautiful it is on the inside, that building is ultimately going to be predestined for failure. If we don't lay the proper foundation, we can guarantee that when difficulty arises for our BSUs, the building that we are building will collapse. The building we're collectively constructing is a freedom-fighting organization that the world will know as the African Black Coalition. This building is a mansion, and this mansion has many rooms. The room you are building is your local Black Student Union. And in the construction of a new formation of politically, economically, spiritually, and mentally independent freedom fighters, ensuring a proper foundation for all of us is not only important, it is essential. Each of us have a role in this construction. Some of us function as architects, visionary leaders who can see the big picture of our liberatory structure. Some are organizers, constantly and consistently considering the strategic implications and ramifications of all of our decisions. Some of us are foremen, managers keeping all of us to the task of organizing. Others are modestly, but most importantly, workers, willing and ready to do the work necessary to achieve success. And each of these roles is equally important in the fostering and the development of a successful Black Student Union. Each of you in the context of your BSU is the lead architect. You must design and visualize the present and future of your union. You are also an uncompromising attorney, constantly making the case to justify the need for our resistance as a people. My first task this morning is to give you an accurate and historical projection of what ABC is. What is our vision? And by what means will we achieve this vision? What liberating strategies are appropriate or inappropriate? Who are we? Who are we not? I'll begin here. We are not a conference, although we host beautiful conferences. We are not an informal network, although we are building the systems necessary to have informal and formal networks. We're not even a student movement. This is very important, although we may lead student movements. How so? We're not interested in the liberation singularly of Black students. Black students are slowly and carefully being shepherded to perform as the proverbial crabs in a barrel, selectively pulled out from the perceived immediate oppression and minutia to remind the rest of our people that if you work hard enough, you just might be able to make it in white America. But in all reality, this is not true. Make no mistake, the fact that the CSU system is only 4.3% Black and the UC system is only 3% Black indicates to us that our presence here is the exception and not the rule. We cannot merely be a student movement. We must completely be for the liberation of all Black people from all oppression and all enslavement. Therefore, our primary responsibility as ABC and as Black student unions is for Black people. You are a student for 4 or 5 or 6 years, but you're Black all your life. We are Black, but not simply Black just to be that. As my ancestors taught, Blackness is necessary, but it is not sufficient. Then who are we? We are young Black people interested in the freedom of all of our people. We are an intentional organization in formation of Black student unions throughout the state of California, whose mission it is the ultimate and unpreventable liberation of all of our people. The key word here is organization, not a conference, not a random gathering of individuals, not an occasional protest. We are an organization. This is essential to our identity and internal development. It would be easy for any one of us to leave and call some gathering of Black people. It would be easy for any one of us to call a protest until we have the influence of the masses. It will be easy for any one of us to get on Black Twitter, hashtag Black Twitter, and get a following. Although we may do any or all of these things, what distinguishes us is simple: organization. As my teacher taught me, Minister Farrakhan, if you have truth and are disorganized, your enemies are going to overrun you. As Brother Kwame Ture once declared, you cannot be a revolutionary without an organization. An organization is the unifying force or power that orders and unifies individuals into a single unit with common cause and purpose. As a result, quote, the ultimate aim and the denial objective of the United States government towards Black people is that we must never become effectively organized. We are an organization of young Black people. Why us? At this stage in life, most of us are at our most free, the freest we may ever be without time. We have neither marital relationships, singular families, careers, mortgages, or any other capitalist adult responsibility to tie us down. If we cannot afford to do this now, when will we be? If not now, when? If not us, who? If we are serious about achieving freedom for our people, then we have to do it now or move out the way for someone else who is willing. Well, what is our objective? Our ultimate objective is the liberation of all African people. That is a grand objective. So we begin our work toward this grand objective with very simple, achievable goals. What is our organizational structure? We are a collective of Black student unions first and foremost. Each BSU plays an intimate role in the decision-making of the coalition and forming of a united front. Over the last 2 years, we have had 9 UC campuses, and currently we have another 10 CSUs that are actively working with us. Yes, we're growing. To perform the day-to-day operations of running the coalition, we have an executive staff comprised of an executive director, myself, political director, communications director, Black community programs director, and an ABC Movement newspaper editor-in-chief. Each director has a substructured staff, of which Miranda is a part. Well, what about you? Each of you have been hand-selected by happenstance or stroke of divine luck to fulfill a very important role in the development of Black people's liberation struggle. Black students on your campus have entrusted you to guide them, to lead them, to direct them, to take charge of them, and to organize them. That's a heavy responsibility. And to be honest, everyone is not actually made to handle such a responsibility. You each are in a critical position, servants of the people, guides of the people, responsible for empowering the people. Well, what is the role of a BSU? The Black Student Union. 3 words. It is Black, it is comprised of students, it is a union. The Black Student Union is designed to advocate, support, and advocate for Black people. There are 5 primary principles upon which the work of a BSU lies. Number 1, voice. Number 2, expression. Number 3, resources. Number 4, agency or empowerment. And number 5, community. I'll start with community. BSU is first and foremost for Black students. On all of our campuses, Black people are currently both outnumbered and outorganized. As a result, the Black student experience tends to be one of isolation, depravity, disrespect, dissatisfaction, and discontent. Without BSU, many Black students would genuinely hate their experience at these predominantly white institutions. BSU is community. It is the creative space that induces Black social and political development. It is the localized manifestation of Black nationalistic tendencies. the simple idea that Black people are one and that we share a commonality of existence. The fact that Black folks only go to Black folks to get our hair done. The fact that Black folks, without ever talking to each other, always know how much sugar to put in the Kool-Aid. This is Blackness, expanding beyond boundaries, but that simple thing that connects us all. At its root, community is the principle of commonality in fellowship and struggle. Our commonality is our Blackness first. In this context, community is a group of people gathered together to advocate for one common cause, to be unapologetically Black. We form community by holding space. Black people at predominantly white institutions absolutely have to have somewhere that they can go and be unapologetically Black. Otherwise, they will not survive. Be Black without cause or consequence. We create community through various programs, discussion, the acquisition of space, and struggle. It is a space for any and all Black people on campus. No threshold necessary, no entry right necessary. Blackness is our central tenet. Therefore, we are a union. A union is a group of members that sacrifice toward the achievement of one common cause. In this case, that common cause being liberation. Consider a union. A union, BSU, the union, is named after workers' unions. Unions where everyone makes a financial sacrifice in order that the organization can work to promote the well-being and the health of everyone that is a part of the organization. So it is with BSU. Each of us must sacrifice some of our time, our talent, our energy, and whatever we can spare of our lives to develop an opportunity that we can improve the quality of life for every Black student that is on campus. Our voice is not limited, pardon me. Blackness is necessary but not sufficient. Second, voice. Voice is the second principle. We give voice to the voiceless. We amplify the voices of Black students through the force and power of organization. Through the strength of unity in our numbers, we leverage our collective power to force the university at first, and the state or the U.S. government ultimately, to hear the needs and concerns of Black people, wherever we may be. Our voice is not limited to constructing a platform to talk at the state. Our politics is informed by our history. Our history demonstrates that we are not an integrationist organization. We don't love everybody. This is not a kumbaya group of people. The Black Student Union was founded in 1966 on the campus of San Francisco State University. Brother James Garrett, the first BSU president and friend of ABC, has told us directly that BSU was created to develop a mechanism to connect Black students to the larger liberation struggle that had been waged off campus. BSU has its initial design oriented toward building a revolutionary organization. Hear me. That students would participate in and then filter out to build or rebuild the Black community off campus. Desiring to make good Black citizens of the Black nation, BSU intended to develop trainings that taught political consciousness and technical skills. Again, that's political consciousness and technical skills to empower Black students to do this work once they left campus. Our voice is one of our most important elements. It is the means by which we communicate to the world our goals, objectives, and vision for a new Black world. We use our voice to prioritize the fight for Black students on campus and Black people off campus. We choose an issue, and by means of effectively organizing our people, we become a voice box. We win. We win so that we can demonstrate to our people that this is a fight that we can win. It is a fight indeed that we must win. Not winning this fight for our people today literally means death. Practically, we exercise our voice through political advocacy and political education. We advocate for the needs of Black students, and we educate our community on our history, the history of our enemies, the history of our relationship with our enemy, and a who, what, when, where, how, and why we must fight and win. Number 3, expression. We provide an intentional space for the creation of Black culture, and equally important, we create and incubate the creation of a culture of resistance. We do this through programming, social media, community building, and swag. Yes, we must have swag. BSUs must always have a high quality swagger. At UC Berkeley, for example, the Black community all has Black Power sweaters that Cal BSU developed and gave to them as Cal BSU sweatshirts. These items help to orient the political culture of Black students on campus. Other things BSUs can do to incubate the culture of resistance are things like poetry nights, discussions, movie nights, more discussions, and generally doing things that demonstrates the talent and the power and the depth of our people's skill set, while also allowing us to have more avenues of expressing who and what we are. 4, resources. We must steer Black students toward personal and collective success by connecting to, organizing, and providing resources. Connecting to, organizing, and providing resources. Black people are not out-resourced, we are out-organized. 11-1. That's the ratio by which Black people outnumber white people on the planet. 25%. That's the percentage of Black people that have a college degree. $1.1 trillion. That's the amount of money Black people spend every single year in the American economy. Africa. Africa produces the majority of the world's mineral resources, yet the people of Africa are stuck in the muck of oppression and poverty. This demonstrates to us that we are not out-resourced, we are out-organized. On a local level, BSU must examine how do we connect Black students and provide them with the necessary resources that they need. Of course, the first resource that we can provide is knowledge. A chair must be knowledgeable, but that is only the beginning. We consider in what way do Black students need support, and then we find ways to offer such support. For example, Black students need financial aid, so a good BSU connects Black students to Black financial aid workers. Black students, by and large, struggle academically, so a good BSU works to support the academic retention of Black students through study jams, academic workshops, save your semester workshops, faculty relationships, and more. Black students need jobs, so a good BSU assists in this effort by providing access to Black job fairs, Black job listings, and entrepreneurial conferences. Black students need food. BSUs can help to assist in this process by helping to develop Black food banks, Black collective food buying clubs, and having free food at our events. BSU is a resource of the people. In the words of Kwame Ture, if you take care of the people will take care of you. The more we can meet the actual practical necessities of Black students, the more Black students will turn around and support the political and historical objectives that we have toward the liberation of our people. Lastly, agency and empowerment. We must create a structure through which every Black student has an opportunity to lead. No Black student should be denied the innate right to participate in their own liberation. In fact, every Black student must be given a clear opportunity to fight for themselves. We empower Black students on our campuses through methods like community forums, trainings, leadership development trainings, sharing skills with them, and developing structural integrity for our BSUs. As a union, BSU should be an umbrella organization in structure and function. BSU should host, train, support, and take its counsel from the substructure organizations on campus, such as NASB, Black Men Support Organizations, Black Women Support Organizations, Black Greek Life, as well as others, just to name a few. Well, this all sounds good, but what does this specifically look like, and how do we get there? Every month, BSU should be working toward completing clear goals and objectives in our route to fulfill our mission. Between now and the beginning of school, you should be focused on the following priorities. Number one, there are 4 of them. Number 1, studying. You cannot be in a position as a chair and not know nothing. We cannot have ignorant leaders because ignorant leaders causes error, mistakes, and haphazards. Number 1 is study. Develop a reading list that you will participate in with yourself and with other chairs, and if your board is interested. Number 2, relationship building. Organizing comes down to one singular principle or one singular activity. That is the activity of building relationships. Use this summer to build relationships with the members of your board, with the other Black student leaders on your campus. What do I mean? I mean, have one-on-ones, go to the movies, have dinners, take people for coffee, go to the park, go to the game. Use this summertime to develop the relationships necessary so that when it's time to do the work, people can do the work and the trust level has already been developed. There is a proportional relationship between the level of trust between you and your board, you and your community, and the level of relationship that you have with them and their ability to get things done. Number 3, board development. Encourage your board to begin to work with each other. Encourage your board members to begin studying and examining the very thorough and in-depth history that Black people have. And lastly, ensure that you host a board retreat. And by this retreat, you'll be working toward developing your board for the upcoming year. Number 4, planning. Use this time to plan out at the very least your entire fall. You should have a backwards timeline of every event, every program, every activity that BSU wants to engage in the fall, with dates attached to it on when things have to get done in order for that to be successful. Over the fall, Sister Miranda has outlined monthly objectives by which you can structure the objective of the vision and the work of BSU each and every single month. During the first month, you should focus on community building. How can we develop community? Examples of community building focus on things such as welcome Black orientations, welcome Black barbecue, new Black student orientations. You can also do things to reach out to non-traditional Black community members, such as athletes and transfer students. How do we do that? For example, a great fall event will be to have a tailgate at one of the sports team's games. It demonstrates that you support Black athletes, and it also helps to develop bonds and relationships between the folks within the Black student community. During the first month, make sure that you spend substantive time developing community. When Black students move into housing, go and help them move in. Let them know that you are here for them, that there's a community of people that wants to welcome them in to a beautiful, 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 beautiful world of Blackness. Month number 2, raising consciousness. Now that we know one another, now that we have affinity toward one another, now we want to begin to raise up our consciousness so that we can actually put in some work. Blackness is necessary, but it is not sufficient. One of our ancestors. We want to use month 2 to begin developing the political consciousness. We can do these things through one-on-one conversations, political seminars, workshops, general body meetings, and bringing keynote speakers to campus. Make sure that you engage Black students on your campus to help them to develop a greater level of political consciousness, so that we're not just Black for Blackness' sake, but our Blackness in ourselves and our individual identity is utilized for the development and toward the freedom of a people who have been without freedom for so long. Month number 3, activism. We want to use this month of activism to really take the consciousness, take the relationship, and begin putting them to work by targeting things that we want to see. Last year, 5 or 6 UCs worked to present BSU demands with various administration. By and large, if you present demands and you have the power to back it up, and the power comes from your community, you can get them agreed to and met. For example, UC Santa Barbara 2 years ago put forward a set of demands, and the consequence of that set of demands is that their administration allocated over $1.5 million specifically that would be directed toward Black students, staff, and faculty on campus. They made a demand, and they had the level of consciousness and activity to ensure that that demand could be met. Similarly, on other campuses this year, we've gotten agreements with Black resource centers. We've gotten agreements with Black themed housing, where our dorms will be, entire dormitory floors will be filled with nothing but Black students oriented toward getting a greater education and understanding of who and what they are. Activism is essential. We must become advocates for our people. Month number 4, service. Service. Now that we've done the activist work, we want to consider what can and will we do for the Black community off campus. Maybe we have high school outreach programs. Maybe we go and give some community service and give food and toiletries to the homeless. Whatever it might be that fits within your local context, consider in month 4, what kind of service-oriented programming can we do? And lastly, during month 5, you want to develop networking. People are getting ready to graduate, some of them. People are getting ready to go in different ways, separate ways. You want to develop stronger levels of relationships so that after folks graduate, they can be in a position to help, to develop, and to foster better and more meaningful relationships that can be beneficial for Black people as a whole. Remember, ABC and BSUs as a result have a clear objective toward Black folks' freedom and liberation outside the campus context. We're students for 4 years, but how do we ensure that these students for 4 years have a meaningful contribution for Black people after they graduate? Let me give you an example. Every year, ABC seeks to annually train 800 Black students. If we train 800 Black students and we are able to get them to commit to the principle of freedom, justice, and equality and the liberation for our people, then after 4 years, we have a very solid cadre through whom we can rely upon to make tangible changes in our condition. Let me make it clearer. If 10% of the 800 Black students that we train are educators, That's 80 students or 80 people that are now in the professional world. What can you imagine if we took these 80 people and then gave them the resources necessary to establish Black-owned schools inside of any part of the state of California? Let's take another 10% and assume that they're going to be doctors. Can you imagine if we took this 10% and we established Black-owned clinics all throughout the state of California with 80 full-time doctors? Can you imagine if 10% of these were engineers, and we used the engineers, and we, after they graduated, we had them come back and we had them begin building new alternative housing for Black people in our communities? We have the potential to change our realities, but we are disorganized. And what we must do now as BSUs is developing a stronger network, a stronger fiber of communication, and a stronger fiber of unity that once we graduate, we can have a meaningful contribution to our people. With that as an outline, what is the role of the executive board? And what is an executive? If you have not looked up the role of an executive, you probably don't know what it means. I highly encourage you to look this up. The chair is the leading executive on a board. An executive, by definition, comes from a Latin words which ultimately mean one who gets things done. It is somebody who follows through on things to the end. An executive performs the following four functions. Number one, administration. Number two, manager. Number three, responsible. Number four, organization. One, administration. Administration comes from the word administer, meaning to have direct charge over. The executive has charge and responsibility over what is happening with the BSU. The word ad, or the prefix ad, means to, and minister comes from a Latin word meaning to serve. An executive is a servant leader, always seeking to serve the people first and themselves second. That means you're the first one there, the last one to leave. That means you're the last one to eat, the first one to clean up. That means your responsibility is to serve primarily and to be served ultimately, almost never, but generally secondarily. Number two, to manage. A manager is one who makes things controlled or handled. The manager is the person who's able to handle confusion and to bring order out of chaos. The manager must be able to figure out the money. As a BSU chair, you cannot, I repeat, you absolutely cannot leave financial matters up to your financial director and absolve yourself of that responsibility. A manager is someone who cares for the organization at all times and is highly focused on developing and ensuring that the care of the organization is there. There is no need to care for an organization that does not exist. And if your BSU goes into debt, it will not exist. So as a manager, you cannot allow the finances of BSU to become insolvent while you turn a blind eye and work on other quote unquote priorities. It is personal. The chair maintains a personal commitment at all times. Number three, responsible. Someone that is responsible does not wait on others to act. Someone that is responsible engages in activity and is self-motivated. As a chair, you cannot wait on your board members to ask you to do work. You must do work and then remind your board members to make sure that they are doing theirs. Number responsible. You must be accountable for your actions. A chair is always quick to admit fault and quick to correct problems within the organization. And lastly, responsible it comes from two compound words, respond and able. Response and ability. What is your ability to respond to the varying situations that come up for a BSU chair? Point number three, organization. Organization ultimately means to make something into an ordered whole. Organizations only have value. This is very, very important. Hear me. Organizations only have value to the degree that it produces. Anyone not producing brings the team down. Anybody on your board that is not putting in work is going to bring the morale and the general perspective of the organization down. The lack of productivity leads to low morale and eventually the death of the organization. Even more, equally as important, anytime your BSU is not productive, the opposite of productivity in an organizing context is drama. Where there is no productivity, there's always drama. So if you don't like drama, make sure your people are productive. Your staff will only respect you if you get things done and ensure that they get their work done. Being a chair does not mean that you're going to be liked by everybody. Being a chair means that you might have to be the person to remind people and to enforce that everyone meets their responsibilities. Once again, where there's a lack of productivity, it always, always, always leads to drama. There are 3 primary qualities of good leadership. Oh, pardon me. There are 6 primary qualities of good leadership. Quality number 1, knowledgeable. A chair must be knowledgeable. And it is not that anyone else on board cannot share knowledge with us or cannot teach us, but we must be knowledgeable enough to understand how each person on the board is supposed to function. We must be thoroughly familiar with the history of ourselves, our people, our struggle, our enemy, and our struggle with our enemy. A chair absolutely positively has to be knowledgeable in order to be successful. You cannot be an ignorant leader and effective. You cannot be a leader that does not read and effective. You must be willing to put in the work and the sacrifice necessary to be knowledgeable. Number 2, a communicator. It is very important that you are an effective communicator. By communication, I do not mean a good talker. Communication is the ability to relay a message or an idea from one point A to point B, and for point B to actually understand that message. Me talking does not mean that I've communicated. I've communicated once the person to whom I am talking can receive, understand, and process that communication effectively. This takes a lot of skill. You must always and consistently be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, when you say it, where you say it, and to whom you say it. Because through proper communication, you can make or break an organization. It is written in the scriptures of the Bible that the tongue can be a giver of life or it can be a cause of death. And we must be considerate of how we use the value and the power of communication. Number 3. This is the 3-part one. A chair must be present, must have affinity, and must develop proper relationships with the entire community. You cannot be a chair missing in action. As a chair, you must make it your duty and your obligation, not just to show up to BSU events and BSU programs and BSU projects. You must show up to everybody's projects, everybody's programs, and everybody's objectives. Because everyone in the community needs to understand that they are supported by the Black Student Union, and you are the face of the BSU. Number 4, works on popular programs. This means you must work to develop programs and practices that are actually likable by your constituency. If your constituents don't like it, it may not be the best time to do it. And although you must always stand on the side of what is right, primarily and foremost, you must understand there's always a time and place for everything. And if it is not the time or place, you may have to move what is right to do it at a time when it's the time to do that particular agenda item. Once again, you must work on popular programs, meaning the majority of people in your community are in support. Number 5, a BSU chair issues clear instructions with a clear goal. The clarity of instruction increases the depth of relationship and the quality of the BSU. And lastly, a chair obtains or enforces compliance. Everyone on board must meet up to a standard. And if they do not meet up to a standard, there absolutely must be developed a consequence for not meeting such standards. You as the BSU chair must consider, how do I ensure or how do I persuade people on my board to ensure that they are doing the work that needs to be done? As I close, in the words of one group, let us live together, and if need be, let us die together. Thank you all for watching this brief seminar titled The President's Club. And we will recap the questions that we have from earlier today. Miranda?
One of the questions that we have is, what advice would you give us with a board member who's being difficult?
Can you define difficult? Do you mean like not doing their work?
Yeah, they don't make the time to put in the work and they don't do their work.
Very good. What I would say is that anyone that is not doing the work of BSU cannot be allowed to stay in the organization for too long, because this person can become like a rotten apple, and that unwillingness to do the work will ultimately spread to cause a low morale in the organization, and can often spread to cause other folks in the organization to not be willing to do the work also. So you build into your constitution clear methodologies and mechanisms by which you have a removal process. For example, when I was BSU chair at UC Berkeley, we put it into the constitution that if you miss more than 3 executive board meetings out of a semester, you would be automatically removed from the board. This was important because we cannot effectively be a BSU if we're not even meeting together. And it also took the weight of that relieval of position from anyone specific on the executive board and left it in the hands of the community who helped to craft the Constitution. Secondly, I would say always lean toward the side of mercy. And in this, you want to sit down and talk to people to understand, why is it that you're not completely fulfilling your job or your responsibilities? Is it something that I am doing? Be introspective first. Understand whether or not you are giving clear objectives, clear goals, and helping and supporting this particular person on board in a very clear and justifiable mannerism. If you are clear and if you are helpful, then you must ensure that your board supports the decision to relieve such said person, because that relieval of that person will be helpful to the board. Those are things that I would say.
Thank you.
Were there any other questions?
No.
Very
you
well.
Answered it.
Our next seminar will be next Saturday at 9 a.m. We intend for this seminar to be on from Mayat to Mayapha, pre-colonial Africa, slavery, and the making of the Negro. During this seminar, we will discuss and we will talk about what has been the history of Black people. If we do not know our history, we cannot know ourselves. Where there is no history, there is no self. So we'll use this seminar to give all of you a baseline understanding of the history, the trajectory, and the positioning of our people over the last thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. We'll try to cover it in a brief segment as we did today. Thank you all for listening. We'll talk to you next time. Black Power.